DNA ของปลาเกี่ยวข้องกับการดูแลผิวอย่างไรและถูกเริ่มนำมาใช้ตั้งแต่เมื่อไหร่
สารสกัดนิวคลีโอไทด์ดีอย่างไรคืออะไรและมีผลต่อผิวอย่างไรคะ
Hands On Passion วันนี้นะคะเรามีดรทิงซงลิมนะคะเป็น Aesthetic Physician จากประเทศมาเลเซียนะคะมาร่วมพูดคุยกับเราค่ะ Hello Dr. Ting
Hello, hi, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm good too.
So start from the first question.
Right.
Like I just heard that polynucleotide was developed in 1952. So can you sharing or tell me about the history and the background?
Sure, I think the company started about that time, 63 years ago. But they have been working on mostly genetic factors and all these regenerative substances. So they started with placenta and then work on PDRN, and the PLENS, the polynucleotides, started in 1995, about 20 years ago. So this year is the 20th anniversary. And they really kind of cracked the code of making this generative factors or biogenic factors into a more sustainable release or sustained release kind of a product that sort of changes our skin quality.
That's cool.
Right, so we already talked about polynucleotides. I wonder, is it different, the polynucleotides that derive from different sources, like we have humans or fish,
Of course, in the early days when they started using placenta, and they realized that the placenta has similar coatings as trout fish where they first started harvesting. So it's all about, because when you look at polynucleotides, it's basically the nitrogen base we talk about, the pentose sugar, and the phosphates. And the nitrogen bases are where it's different because in different animals, different sort of organisms, their nucleic acid or probably the nucleotides are different because of the nitrogen bases. And when they were looking into a replacement for placenta, human placenta, they found out that trout fish has very similar nitrogen bases that works out as nucleotides, and therefore it's replaceable with trout fish. So I think that this thing has been around since 63 years ago. They started working on that, and of course with PLENS was started 20 years ago. So there was a lot of time that they put into building this up, and therefore I think it's the source. They realized that trout fish that they actually farm and control from the very beginning until harvesting the polynucleotides from them, everything is under control. So in that way, first the source is in the control source. Secondly, they find that the substances, the nucleotide bases, nitrogen bases are very similar. So it was of high quality, and of course, when they actually managed to purify it into the basic form, that's why I think the results that we see with PLENS, with these polynucleotides, is way better. What we saw with some other sources like salmon, so salmon was sort of a spin-off from the trout fish because they are the same family. So we think that it will work the same. But to the company that was doing trout fish, they said salmon has a lot of issues because most of salmon is wild.
Right.
You cannot farm them. You have to leave them get out, and they have to farm, and they swing back, right? This is how salmon works. The problem is if you actually leave them into the wild, they can eat anything. They can absorb a lot of mercury, a lot of pollutants. So that's one of the things that why they feel that this will actually destroy the DNA in there, because you are actually, because the more your nucleotides or your DNA is exposed to pollutions and all the wear and tear, it changes. That's why cancer happens. That's why hypermethylation of DNA happens, and you lose out some of the substances. And therefore, when you have a wild salmon that is actually exposed to a lot of crazy stuff, they come back, they bring a lot of crazy stuff with them. and then when you
Right.
start injecting your face with a lot of crazy stuff,
Yeah.
You become crazy.
the skin becomes crazy.
Well, at first you mentioned about the name. I thought,
Right.
oh, this is a very thoroughly thinking process of the
Right.
name. But
Right.
after you actually explain that
Right.
you farm the trout fish in order to prevent any of the pollutions or like
Right.
heavy metals, I mean, that's a very, from the beginning, you think it through, like
Yes.
how to make it as purified as possible.
Yeah, I think that's
before
why
it
they
becomes-
did very well in that sense. They really had everything planned out, and they really chased after full purification.
Right.
And that's why we don't see much of complications or any problems with this product. And then you do see more consistent results comparing to some other products out there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting
Yeah,
actually.
true.
Yeah. So like after like you inject like polynucleotide on your face, so like how is the work or like how is it affects like on the face?
Right, so the mechanism of action, it's frankly speaking, we don't really fully understand. We think that it could be a several pathway. We think that it works throughout what we call salvage pathway, where as wear and tear, as part of aging, our DNA substances becomes less and less of the spare parts.
Yeah.
So with cells, when they start malfunctioning, what we'll do is they will ask for help. They will ask for inflammatory cells to come and do some repair mechanism, or they will ask the inflammatory cells to come in to digest them
Yeah.
and kill them, get rid of the older cells, we call senescent cells. So that is why when we actually have all this wear and tear, we have inflamed aging. So it's part of the process of getting rid of wear and tear and old cells. But this inflammation also causes a lot of problems to us, especially Asians.
Yes.
Because our
Right.
skin is very easy to, you set fire on it, it's a wildfire. So,
Yeah.
so that's why we want to calm down the inflammation. So by having nucleotides working as polynucleotides, was like spare parts for our nucleus, for our genetic materials, for our DNA to work, it actually helps the cells to maintain less inflammation, less inflamed aging. Secondly, it also works on what we call the adenosine 2 receptors. With the A2 receptors, it also reduces the inflammation, and we believe it also works on ATP receptors to reduce inflammation and give energy. Because if you look at what we call as nucleotides, is the pentose sugar with nitrogen base and 3 phosphates. And the things that always come to our mind is ATP,
Yeah.
which is the energy, the energy currency. So we are basically putting energy currency into our tissues to as if we are giving more electricity or we're putting more money into there so they can work better. So I think that is where we see polynucleotides works on all the tissues, including skin. So what will we see in terms of skin quality? Skin changes is skin quality changes. We see the pores get lesser,
Yeah.
the wrinkles and fine lines gets lesser. We call it the skin surface evenness gets better. We see
Right.
firmness because of when the cells are working better, they produce better collagen, better elastin, fibronectin, improves elasticity. So you see more firmness of the skin. So firmness is one. We see skin tone evenness changes and improvements. We see not only in terms of redness, because redness is all about inflammation.
Yeah.
You reduce a lot of inflammation, you reduce the redness, erythema. But on top of that, we also know a lot of patients who have hyperpigmentation is also due to inflammation. Because when the skin is very inflamed, it stimulates our melanocytes to produce melanin to protect the skin from further damage. So when you actually have less inflammation in the skin, it calms down it calms down your melanocytes. They don't overproduce melanin, so you have less hyperpigmentation as well. So that actually helps in terms of skin tone evenness, and if you actually have better hydration, better ECM, the skin actually works better. The light reflects to the skin, becomes better so that you get the skin glow. So there's 4 quadrants of skin quality. It's all managed.
Right.
Kind of like right choice and then like right answer for the people like who want it nowadays.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
But is there anything that we should be avoid, like any skin condition or really any age group that should not be injected, or how long does it last and how often do we need to get this injection, right?
Well, I think contraindication wise, just like any procedures, we don't do on minors. Yeah, if they
Right.
cannot consent, probably not a good idea to do it on them. Secondly, is those who going through pregnancy or even there's no contraindication in terms of breastfeeding, but if you want to be careful, maybe that's not the best time to do it. Of course, then you have those with some malignancy or they're going through some really, if they are very sick, probably they're not the best person to kind of inject. Otherwise, I think there's probably no contraindication in terms of you can use them, and we can use it in lots of, not only the skin, but you know, a lot of times we inject into the fats. What we're seeing today is that it improves the tissues. It improves the tissues of the face, it improves tissue of the scalp, so hair loss. You use your neck, you use your hands, you use your body. I think if they are newbies and never tried before, I suggest starting them once a month for about 3 to 5 times. Once they kind of have a little bit, then you actually have a healthier ECM and things goes well. So if they want to kind of continue to do it, they can come back in 6 months or 8 months to continue to do that. And in terms of longevity, how long does this product last? I think even just during our first study that we did on the 30 subject, we actually did once a month for 3 times, and we follow up to 6 months. So that means it's 9 months after the injection. So, but we also continue to follow up them until 12 months, and we do still see the effect of polynucleotides in them.
So like we know about like the good thing and like the benefit of like polynucleotide already. So like, do they have like any side effect after like injection or like anything that we should like worry about?
Yeah, so far I don't think there's any tremendous kind of side effects that we're about. In fact, the polynucleotides, even if you go into a bloodstream, it's still very safe. It's like regenerative, right? So even if you inject, so unlike fillers where you were worried that you can occlude blood vessels, this you don't have to be worried about.
Okay.
So the only thing is the technique. So when it's injected, big boluses, you have a bit of swelling. Of course, if you hit a blood vessels, you have bruising, but it goes away. So it's not a permanent damage. In fact, the healing process will kick in. Even if it's swelling, it goes away very fast. So lots of times this is a very forgiving product. So it's actually easy to use.
So you mean the worst case we can get is just bruising?
Bruising and swelling. That's it.
So like acceptable.
Yeah.
it's very acceptable.
Basically with any needles.
Yes, right. It's normal
Yes.
thing. I think it can happen. So like we can combine with like another things, I mean another product or like electrical based device or anything.
Yes. I think it works well with a lot of injectables and energy-based devices. The thing is, polynucleotides does what we call priming. It allows extracellular matrix to be healthier. So a lot of times when we do treatments, if you want the results to be better, I think by working on the healthier extracellular matrix gives you better results. So let's say the one thing that we always kind of feel astonishing, some people they have acne and they heal with 0 scars, and some people get acne and they are all full of hypertrophic scar, hypotrophic scar, atrophic scars, etc. So with a lot of issues. And I think that the separation between going into a scar and not going into a scar is all about the health of the extracellular matrix. And what we're seeing now is to allow polynucleotides to go back into the tissues, allow inflammation to be minimal, and makes our extracellular matrix healthier, So when you use energy-based devices, when you use biostimulators, when you use all sorts of injectables, it works even better. So I think this is something that we can either combine on the same day, or we actually do it before the treatment, so as a priming. Or after the treatments, you want to calm down the inflammation and make sure that the results is even better.
Okay.
So it's very versatile. You can use it anywhere you want.
Yeah. So I think like everyone wants to know that like so nowadays like hyaluronic acid is kind of like really famous. So like what the difference between like polynucleotide and then like hyaluronic acid?
Right, hyaluronic acid works as a lot of times when we look into hyaluronic acid, we think as hydration. Of course, then when it's cross-linked, it becomes a volumizer. It actually gives us a filling effect.
Yes.
And of course, when you compare to HA, polynucleotides are not supposedly to give you volume. It's just kind of improve the microenvironment, improve the spare parts, giving energy. So in fact, they work hand in hand. You can actually help your hyaluronic acid with your polynucleotides. But of course, with hyaluronic acids, there is a combination with hyaluronic acid with polynucleotides in the newest product that actually is working as synergistic, where you HA also works as a stimulator. HA itself does stimulate and create some of the collagen. And when you actually combine polynucleotides, they actually does a better work together. So, but if you want to say that one is replacing the other, no, it's not, because there are two different things. So one thing that we do see these days is some people get so worried about hyaluronic acid because of the overfill syndrome. And also they are so worried that some of the cross-linked HA could cause blindness or a lot of scarring or like blocking blood vessels. So a lot of people actually move towards polynucleotides as a safe haven. And what we see is that some institutes actually use polynucleotides to use as a training before they actually use HA as a filler.
I did that also.
So that would be something that was interesting to be sort of used as well.
That's a very good idea on training as well. And since program Plyness just launched in Thailand, do you have anything that you want to say to Thai doctors?
Right, sure. I think polynucleotides is something that we kind of open up a new door for us to do what we do right now. Because aesthetics is not so much about changing someone's face or giving them very drastic results. A lot of our approach is more wellness, reverse aging, anti-aging, and also helping our skin and tissue to be healthier. So polynucleotides actually works for tissues because, like I said, it's regenerative, it's giving energy, it's actually working in terms of slow down a lot of wear and tear, hallmarks of aging. So the 9 hallmarks of aging, one of them is DNA changes, and also that itself is and cell communication. So that actually works. Polynucleotides actually kind of reverse those hallmarks of aging by doing so. So I think it is something that we can all explore. We are still very early stage of looking at polynucleotides. It is a good complement to a lot of things that we do. And it actually opens up the door to regenerative medicine or regenerative aesthetics. So besides stem cells, exosomes, this is something that is even more fundamental because it's all about the building blocks of our genetic coding.
Oh, I love that word so much. Reverse aging is even more promising than just anti-aging. We've learned so much from you today. Thank you so much for.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
ค่ะ Hand on Passion ในวันนี้นะคะต้องขอบคุณดร.ลิมนะคะที่ให้เวลามาร่วมพูดคุยกับเรานะคะส่วน Hand on Passion ในเอพิโซดหน้านะคะจะเป็นใครเจอกันใหม่เอพิโซดหน้าค่ะสวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีครับ
บ๊ายบาย
Bye.